Admiral and Mrs. Jean Markey, confined to their home by age, had hoped to enjoy the winner's circle by television. But when their Alydar lost to a Fern, they had to settle for a consoling squeeze. Steve Cawthon won the prize at age 18. How easy life's achievements must have seemed to the kid that day. Bill Shoemaker visited the circle at age 54 and used the moment to say hello to his 7-year-old daughter, Amanda. Woody Stevens was brought from the hospital to watch in the director's room. When Swale won, Woody was cured and made it to the winner's circle. And when Bold Forbes won the Derby, all Puerto Rico rejoiced for the colt who started his career there. Will the island jump again tonight? Well, many say yes, that Bold Forbes' trainer, Las Barrera, will do it again, that the Cuban-born veteran will honor his Latin heritage with another Puerto Rican star, with an undefeated colt named Mr. Frisky. Others favor Summer Squall, beaten just once, battle-tested in sunshine and rain and long-stretch drives. It'll be Puerto Rico versus the mainland as the two do battle. But will neither win? And will victory bring another horse, another owner, another trainer, another jockey to that special place, that magic spot that symbolizes honor and glory just this one day each year? The winner's circle for the greatest race of all, the Kentucky Derby. To bring you the constant variety of sport.
Here's Powercraft on its feet as Jim Ryan pounds for home.
Greg LeMond seems like he is about to take the lead in Stage 5 of the Tour de France.
The thrill of victory.
And down the stretch they come. Here's the finish of the Preakness. Sunday Silence, an easy goer. Photo finish. Noses apart.
Three-time champion, Jill Trenery.
What a feeling.
And the agony of defeat.
Look at him go. Oh, baby. What a terrible fall.
The human drama of athletic competition. The United States amateurs, the college kids, are the best. In our 30th year, this is ABC's Wide World of Sports.
She doesn't lay in behind him, but she's shown a lot of speed away from her a couple of times.
Get your ice cold mid julep here.
The grandstand at Churchill Downs is just a structure of wood, steel, and concrete. And the Twin Spires, same thing. Sure they are. And Secretariat was just a horse. The Churchill stand, as solid and comforting as the cover of an old history book, has actually become again today America's annual reminder that dreams can come true, that some things still never change, that beauty and courage and drama can still be important, at least for a day. Is money a subject here? Of course. The big purse for the winner, the tens of millions of dollars going through the mutual windows. But we're here because of the dreams and the drama. We're here because of the human stories in the one and only Run for the Roses. Today, ABC's Wide World of Sports presents the 116th running of the Kentucky Derby, the first leg of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Hello, I'm Jim McKay, welcoming you on behalf of ABC Sports for the 16th time to our exclusive coverage of the Kentucky Derby. Now, let me tell you, this has been a terrible day weather-wise here. Leaden skies, misty rain, cold and wind, temperature 48 degrees, but no more than 15 seconds ago, the sun began to come out and the crowd cheered. So maybe after all, this will not be the coldest of all Kentucky Derbies. Now, the scene, of course, is familiar. We have the great crowd, the Twin Spires, soon the playing of My Old Kentucky Home, the parade to the post, and the race itself. We have 15 horses, one of them, Mr. Frisky, undefeated in 16 starts. Another one, Pendleton Ridge, has never won a race of any kind. So the dreams and the hard facts will collide head-on pretty soon when the gates spring open in 58 minutes. The Derby, of course, is the first leg of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Now, here's how that works. If any horse wins the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, he is guaranteed a total of $5 million. If not, this point system comes into effect. Victory in any one of the three races counts 5 points. A second is worth 3 points, and a third, 1 point. The horse with the highest total and who has run in all three races will receive a $1 million bonus. Now, let's have a look at the favorites for the 116th running of the Kentucky Derby. Summer Squall, right here, beaten only once in his career, winner of $750,000, carrying the hopes of his 28 owners. And a look now at the unbeaten Mr. Frisky, the pride of Puerto Rico, purchased for only $15,000, now worth millions. And for more on that subject, let's go now to my ABC Sports colleague, Al Michaels. Al?
Jim, let's start with a promising note. The track today has been listed as muddy, but it's a quick-drying surface here at Churchill Downs. And just a moment ago, I took a look back over my shoulder, and the track is now listed as good. So, in today's race, as we take a look at this field, there are 15 horses, and I think you can break them down into 3 tiers. You have the 2 superstars, Mr. Frisky and Summer Squall, and right now they are neck and neck to see who will be the favorite. Each has been held at about 2-1 for the last couple of hours. Then there are 8 horses, such as Land Rush and Unbridled and 36 Red, and you'd have to say they are legitimate contenders. We'll take a look at them in detail later on. The other 5, well, they'd have to be called pretenders, but owners and trainers have dreams, and if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. You might as well dream about the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at some race particulars. The purse today is $750,000, about $600,000 to the winner. The distance, 1.25 miles. None of the horses has gone that far. The track condition, as I say, just listed as good. Temperature 48 degrees. Each of the horses carries 126 pounds. Only 36 Red has ever carried 126 to this point. Now, these are the saddlecloth numbers, the program numbers. They have nothing to do with the post positions. We'll have those for you later. Bobby Frankel, the longtime king of the claimers trainer, the former New Yorker, now out of California, comes to the Derby for the first time. His entry, number 1, Pendleton Ridge and Burn Hills, 30-1. Wayne Lukas has 3 horses in the race, Real Cash, Land Rush, and Power Lunch. Bet 1, get all 3 at 14-1. Killer Diller is 50-1. Video Ranger's second in the Santa Anita Derby to Mr. Frisky is 60-1. Mr. Frisky, by a few $1,000s, is the favorite at 2-1. A few thousand more than has been bet on Summer Squall to this point. Fighting Fantasy at least 99-1. That's as high as the tote board goes. Unbridled is 10-1. Pleasant Tap might be the overlay at the moment at 40-1. With 36 Red, you saw him following Silver Ending. 36 Red is 9-2. Summer Squall is number 11 at 2-1. Second choice at the moment. Dr. Bobby A is 90-1. He'll break from the inside, and Country Day was scratched yesterday. That's a look at the 15-horse field, and now from the roof to the terrace, we go to Jack Whitaker.
Well, Al, I don't know how many sports have Nobel laureates as fans, but we know William Faulkner was a friend of horses and the Kentucky Derby. He once wrote that when they play my old Kentucky home, we're about to see the 1:30 minutes after the 4 o'clock of all possible 4 o'clocks, on the one Saturday afternoon of all possible Saturday afternoons. Well, old Pappy knew about the essence of this moment we've arrived at presently. You see, even people who think that horse racing might gauge a little bit lower than bungee cord jumping feel the pull of this Kentucky Derby, because the anticipation is the whole story practically. It's intense and very compelling, and it should be enjoyed rather than explained. So savor this moment. The day is gaining force now, this one moment of all possible moments on this one afternoon of all possible Saturday afternoons. It is now 4:39 p.m. on the first Saturday in May, and we're all going to the races.
You bet we are, Jack, and they've been coming to the races all week here. Prince Albert of Monaco has been on the scene. Stan Musial, that swing still looks pretty good, doesn't it? He's been here, and Wayne Gretzky, co-owner of Pendleton Ridge. Derby Week is a movable festival in Louisville. Fireworks, balloons, paddle wheel steamers. Thousands of volunteer workers make the Kentucky Derby Festival a rousing. Back again at Churchill Downs prior to the running of the Kentucky Derby. There is a story here today that involves an island, a wedding anniversary, and a trainer who many thought was on the verge of retirement. Now, Las Barrera is the trainer's name, a great trainer, a fine person, twice a Kentucky Derby winner. But last year, his spirit was broken by an accusation without foundation and later withdrawn that he had drugged a horse. He was a sad and sick and disillusioned man. However, this horse, the horse you'll see, has changed all that. He goes by the catchy name of Mr. Frisky, and there he is today, ready for the Kentucky Derby, carrying the pride of Puerto Rico with him. Thousands of fans have come out here from the island today, and they'll follow their hero to the Triple Crown, they hope. But back home, we're going to have a look at the scene right now, I believe, at the El Comandante racetrack, where Mr. Frisky, there they are, started his career. They know the story, but I'll tell you now. Puerto Rico, an island in the sun, takes great pride in sons of the island. Sons like the baseball great Roberto Clemente, whose namesake, the horse Roberto, won the Epsom Derby. And now comes another. His name is Mr. Frisky. This house is already a landmark of the island, the house of Jose Fernandez. Fernandez, the engineer, who now leads a big construction firm, whose wife Marta asked him for an anniversary present. He said, "Let me select a horse." So they flew to the mainland with their daughters to a horse sale in Florida. They own other horses, but this would be Marta's anniversary present, a special horse. She chose a 2-year-old by a little-known sire, born and raised at a little-known farm in Ocala, but Marta told her husband that this was the one she liked.
I tell him, look, he looks like one of those paintings that we have seen in Kentucky. And he told me, don't worry, we'll get him. And we bought him.
So for $15,000, they bought the son of Marseilles, to whom you could breed last year for $2,000 and get a free van ride for your mare in the bargain. In fact, if your mare was a good one, the whole mating might be free. But then Mr. Frisky began to run in Puerto Rico. He won, and won again and again. Mr. Frisky was a winner. Puerto Rico had a hero. Take him to the mainland, people said. Take him to the great trainer, Las Barrera. They asked Las Barrera, who wasn't sure. But then he saw Mr. Frisky run. And it took Las back to that day 14 years ago when he trained another horse from Puerto Rico, Bold Forbes, to victory in the Kentucky Derby, a victory that caused celebrations on the island.
The only word I can say, I'm very happy. I hope all my family see this. And God bless America, and Cuba and Puerto Rico and every country in the world.
His last day of glory in Kentucky was in 1978, when his colt Affirmed won the Derby and went on to take the Triple Crown. No one has achieved that since. Las, born in Cuba in another time, has long had a dream of laying a blanket of roses on his mother's grave there. Mr. Frisky reawakened that dream, so he prepared him for the road to Churchill Downs.
For any horse with 13 race straight, doesn't matter if you win in Cacamonga. He's a runner.
Mr. Frisky fooled those who scoffed at the island horse. He won the San Vicente and then the San Rafael. And when he won the Santa Anita Derby, Puerto Ricans nodded and said, "We told you so." For Puerto Rico and the USA, Mr. Frisky was on his way, seeking the dream that often turns to heartbreak, but sometimes can come true. No horse ever came to the Derby with so many wins, 16 in all, and still undefeated.
Everybody in Puerto Rico know Mr. Frisky in this moment. Everybody talk about Mr. Frisky. When I went to Puerto Rico to pick up Mr. Frisky, I went to a play in a hotel and asked him for a Diet Coke. And the guy said to me, "I know who you are. I know where you come from here. You come to pick Mr. Frisky and take him away from us."
The first time in years, everybody is all together trying to push Mr. Frisky and talking about Mr. Frisky. And people who never have seen a horse race now looking for Mr. Frisky and talking about Mr. Frisky as an expert, you see.
He's the horse of the people.
Yes.
He's the horse of the people now. He's no longer ours. He belongs to Puerto Rico.
And now, the dream comes to Kentucky. Tonight, again, all Puerto Rico may sing and dance as they did for Bold Forbes. And one day yet, perhaps, Las Barrera may place those roses on his mother's grave. And now these Puerto Rican fans must wonder, could it be an omen? At this moment, as that piece was on the air, the sun under which they live on their island has come out at Churchill Downs. And there is Las Barrera, into his 60s now. Thought perhaps he'd never be back here again. As I said, he was sad. Many people thought he was through with this sport, but no more, not with Mr. Frisky. Let's meet Mr. Frisky's rider now. He's with Charles E. Canty.
And I am here in the paddock with Gary Stevens. He is the leading rider in the nation. And he rides today, of course, undefeated Mr. Frisky, yet you all are not a clear-cut favorite. Gary, why is it that people are so reluctant to believe in this colt?
Well, I think mostly because of his where he raced before he came to the United States. They said that he didn't beat anybody over there yet. He came to the United States. He beat a decent field his first out in the United States. He came back and beat a better field at a longer distance, which they said he couldn't do. He was more improved at the longer distance. Then he went on to the 1 1/8 and beat even a better field and improved with the distance there. But still, there's a lot of non-believers in this horse. And also, I think that the hometown crowd of Kentucky and Pat Day, they're believing in Summer Squall also.
All right, you're in post 5. There's no speed to your inside. You've got to make some quick decisions when the gates spring. What'll you do?
Well, this colt, he's very intelligent. He basically tells me what he wants to do. He's very quick from the starting gate, and he's very quick on his feet. Real Cash directly on the outside of me, he also has speed. I believe my horse is a little quicker than he is away from the gate, but a lot of things can happen during a horse race. And I just want to ride this colt early on in the race wherever he's comfortable. And if that's on the lead, that's fine. And if it's 2 or 3 lengths off at the pace, that's fine, too. I just want to have somewhere to run the last 3/8 of a mile.
To the wire. Gary Stevens, have a safe trip.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you. Looking for a match to go with his winning colors derby 2 years ago. Back to Jim.
And still, the empty winner's circle waits for, I wonder who. Summer Squall starting the long walk in the barn area still. His barn a little different from where the other Kentucky Derby horses are because his trainer Neil Howard has a regular string here. But he started that long walk, and in time he'll come in view of the crowd and of Dave Johnson, who is up atop the stands. Dave?
You know, you've seen some of the emotion that comes with the glory of the Kentucky Derby, and it's usually an experience that only one owner gets to savor. But in this run for the roses, well, it's an opportunity for 28 owners to smell the roses and enjoy owning that winner's circle for Derby Day. And based on the odds board, many think that the winner's circle down there is going to be more crowded today than in the past 115 years.
What does a guy who enjoys trout fishing while owning TV stations have in common with a literary agent for best-selling authors who just happens to breed and show championship dogs? And what does a specialist on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange who likes to raft down the Colorado River have in common with a man who, with his daughter, manages the career of boxer Tyrell Biggs and supplies asphalt and concrete for our sidewalks and highways? Well, they are part of a 28-member syndicate that owns Summer Squall, put together by Cot Campbell, who had a revolutionary idea about sharing the fun and splitting the risk of racehorses.
People thought it couldn't be done. And it was looked upon by the old guard traditionalists in the sport in sort of a rather askance.
Campbell, a former advertising executive, neatly packaged his horse ownership plan. An open invitation. All you needed was money. $55,000 a share, 40 shares. Summer Squall, part of a 5-horse package, was sold at auction for $300,000. And quickly, the South Carolina gentleman and his partners found out it was a bargain. He won his very first outing by 11 easy lengths. Then 3 more summer tallies before the Hopeful Stakes at Saratoga. Caught behind a wall of horses through the stretch, he was bumped, jostled, and impeded, but shot through a tiny opening and won like an old pro. An unusual display of courage for a young and rather smallish racehorse. But there was a cost. This would be his last start of 1989.
Summer Squall spent the winter with us at our dogwood facilities in Aiken, South Carolina, because he had a hairline fracture in his right front cannon bone. Then he came back to the barn at Gulfstream. We were getting him ready to run on the 25th of February, and on the 19th of February, he bled very unexpectedly in a workout, his final prep for a stake race the following week. So we were devastated.
Remarkably, 3 weeks later, Summer Squall, now using the anti-bleeding medication Lasix, was back, finishing second to Housebuster, and the Squall moved on. 2 more wins, the Jim Beam, and then the Bluegrass, his final Derby prep just 3 weeks ago. Cot wants this Derby badly, but can he possibly want it any more than Pat Day, runner-up in the Run for the Roses the past 2 years? And first-time Derby trainer Neil Howard. Anxiety and tension with every gallop and workout, but he believes in his horse. Why not? 7 wins in 8 starts. Even facing Mr. Frisky and his perfect record, this Summer Squall is almost perfect.
There is Cot Campbell walking behind Summer Squall. He always makes it very clear to his respective investors that the odds in this sport are very much against you, but the rewards can be great. Rewards like Summer Squall. Let's meet his rider now, Pat Day, still looking for his first Kentucky Derby victory, although he's won more races in this track than any other rider. Here's Charlesy.
Thank you, Jim. And rounding out the Summer Squall team is, of course, Pat Day. And Pat, today you and Summer Squall have drawn way outside in post 13. There's a lot of speed to your inside. What are you going to do?
Well, it's lucky 13. As you know, the speed is on the inside of us, and I anticipate them coming away from the gate running. I should be in the second flat right behind them, hopefully down into the first turn, be able to tuck in a little bit and save some ground around the first turn, but still be within striking distance.
Pat, on Thursday, you surpassed Don Brumfield's all-time money races won record here at Churchill Downs, 934 victories, but not one of them is entitled Kentucky Derby. It's an old refrain for you this time of year.
Well, I tell you, Charlesy, I really feel blessed and most honored just to be here and to be participating in this great race. And it has eluded us thus far. We've been very close on a couple of occasions, last year with Easy Goer and 49er Rampage. But when it's meant to be, it'll be, and I feel very good today. So we're very optimistic. I'm very, very high on this colt. I think Neil's done a wonderful job with him, and I look for a very big performance out of him. If he's good enough, we'll get the job done.
All right, Pat Day, thank you and good luck. Remember, all streaks come to an end, be they winning or losing. Jim?
All right, Charlesy, behind the grandstand is this statue of Aristides, the very first winner of the Kentucky Derby. He, of course, has been gone for a long, long time, and so have most of the others. The oldest living Derby winner is Northern Dancer, in retirement at his Maryland home. Northern Dancer, he won with Bill Hartack up 26 years ago.
Churchill Downs from the Goodyear Blimp America, based in Houston, Texas, piloted today by Aaron Jenkins, and it's warming up a bit. With the temperature expected to climb into the low 50s, we'll take a look at the current odds as you look at 36 red. Pendleton Ridge, Burnt Hills, the entry at 30-1. The Lukas threesome at 14-1. Killer Diller a long shot. Video Ranger a long shot as well. By about $30,000, Mr. Frisky is the favorite at 2-1. Fighting Fantasy at least 99-1. Unbridled at 10-1. Pleasant Tap a long shot. Good backing for Silver Ending. 36 red is 5-1. Summer Squall is the second choice. Dr. Bobby A, 99-1. Country Day was scratched yesterday. You know, through the history of the Kentucky Derby, the favorite has come home to win 41% of the time. But some interesting recent history. In the decade of the 70s, the favorite won 6 times, 6 of 10. However, in the decade of the 80s, no favorite won the Kentucky Derby. 0 for 10. The last time a favorite won, 1979. That was a spectacular bid. And in fact, in the decade of the 80s, only twice in those 10 years did the favorite even finish in the money. So if you're looking for a price, this has been the place to be. And if you're looking for a price today, have a peek at some of these very legitimate contenders. Unbridled has been out of the money only once in 10 starts. He's trained by a former rodeo star, Carl Nofsker, who sees similarities between riding bulls and training horses.
The competition level rodeo is about like racing. It's great to run against your own competitors, and I wish them all well. They wish me well, but I want to beat them.
Unbridled is the first Derby starter for 92-year-old Frances Genter of Minnesota. Her colt won the Florida Derby by 4 lengths, then was third in the Bluegrass Stakes over a sloppy track he may not have cared for. 3 months ago, 36 red, a colt named for the highest number on the roulette wheel, was a long shot to even make the Derby. In March, he was still a maiden. Yet lately, he's taken tremendous strides. Winner of his last 2 starts, including the Wood Memorial, where 36 red carried the Derby weight of 126 pounds. Trainer Nick Zito is very confident today.
The other horses, when they won the Bluegrass and the San Diego Derby, carried 21 and 22. So I feel that they're picking up weight while we stay the same. That's why I actually think we could win the Kentucky Derby.
Land Rush was a $450,000 yearling purchase who until now has promised more than he's delivered. He's been the primary hope of trainer D. Wayne Lukas since Grand Canyon was injured in February. Land Rush has the pedigree. His sire, Nijinsky, gave us 1986 Derby winner Ferdinand, and the mile-and-a-quarter Derby distance should suit him. Land Rush showed dramatic improvement when finishing second to Summer Squall in the Bluegrass Stakes. The veteran Angel Cordero will be aboard. An intriguing horse is Pendleton Ridge, who started only 3 times and has yet to win a race. Broker's Tip was the last maiden to take the Roses 57 years ago. A syndicate including hockey superstar Wayne Gretzky and his boss, Los Angeles Kings owner Bruce McNall, own Pendleton Ridge, who is trained by Bobby Frankel. Frankel will also saddle Burt Hills, a speed horse who was runner-up to 36 Red in the Wood. Jockey Patrick Valenzuela seeks his second straight Derby win. Silver Ending, a bay colt with a gray tail, was an unwanted yearling at the Keeneland sale in September of 1988. Unwanted, that is, by everyone but Ron McAnally, who paid only $1,500 for the son of Silverhawk. His win in the Arkansas Derby featured the fastest clocking turned in any mile-and-an-eighth prep race this season. And he picks up the services of Chris McCarron, who was the regular rider for the great John Henry, also trained by McAnally.
I never expected John Henry to be the horse that he was when I got him. And I don't expect Silver Ending, but if he keeps continuing to improve and run and the way he has been running, then there is a good chance. Nobody really knows.
Interestingly, Gary Stevens has been his rider, but Stevens, of course, is on Mr. Frisky. McCarron gets the mount on Silver Ending. Ron McAnally will be going into the Hall of Fame this summer along with John Henry, so it will be today Silver Ending looking for the silver lining and leading us to send it down to the Silver Fox. Jack Whitaker.
Thank you, Al. Any colt which makes it to the Kentucky Derby does against very long odds. After all, there were almost 50,000 foals dropped in 1987, and we only have 15 starting today. Some of those, however, make it against longer odds than the others. Most of these colts are bought at yearling sales at prices that would compare favorably to the fine just levied against Michael Milken. But every now and again, a real junk bond slips in. A colt that is bought for a song because of suspect bloodlines or confirmation. And then it turns into a blue chip. There was John Henry, we've already talked about. There was Seattle Slew, bought for $17,500. Mr. Frisky at $15,000 is a real bargain. But the biggest today by far is Silver Ending. That a $1,500 thoroughbred could become a stakes winner and make it to the Kentucky Derby is as likely as the Rolling Stones playing the music of George Gershwin. And should he prevail today, we will have witnessed something as marvelous as Nolan Ryan's arm. Now, with someone who has a vested interest in Silver Ending, here is Arlen Swan.
Thank you very much, Jack. I'm with Deborah McAnally, whose husband Ron trained Silver Ending, and Beth Costanza, the wife of co-owner Angelo. And Beth, when Silver Ending won his first race, a friend of mine, my trainer, George Vogel, wanted to buy the horse. Ron didn't sell him, but Angelo wanted to sell. They thought they'd get $400,000 or $500,000. Why didn't you sell then?
Well, we decided this is a business that memories are made of, and we wanted to keep the memories.
Okay, well, not too long before this race was getting ready to take place, owner up in Canada called down, and Deborah, he wanted to pay over $2 million for this horse, but you still didn't sell.
That's correct, Lynn. There's no price you can put on the love, the fun, and the sharing we've had with our family and all of our friends out there on this little $1,500 horse who's brought us all together to share in this moment.
Well, I have to ask you both quickly, is the hope and only the possibility and chance of a Derby win worth $2 million in your hand?
Most definitely. I have to say yes, right on.
Okay. Beth?
Right, I agree.
Okay, well, you heard it, Jim. It's not worth $2 million to give up a chance to win the Kentucky Derby. Jim?
So the owners are here, the trainers, the horses, and the celebrities. Marie Osmond among them. There's John Forsythe, a horseman and a fine guy all around. Boomer Esiason of the Bengals. Darrell Hannah and other Derby delights. Can you bake a Derby pie, little girl? Yes. Just use these ingredients. Personally, I do it 45 minutes.
He's still a narrow favorite by some $16,000 over Summer Squall. Let's take a look now at the post positions. They have nothing to do with the saddle cloth numbers. Dr. Bobby A. breaks from the inside. The first 4 horses there don't have much speed. Thus, Mr. Frisky should have clear sailing to the inside as he breaks from the gate. Real Cash has speed out of the 6 hole. Fighting Fantasy from the 7 spot. Then comes Unbridled. Pleasant Tap out of the 9 hole. Silver Ending breaks from the 10 spot. 36 Red comes out of the 11 hole. Burn Hills 12. Summer Squall moving from 14 to 13 because of the Country Day scratch. Land Rush 14. Power Lunch, despite his name, couldn't get a reservation in the main gate. He has to start in the auxiliary gate in spot number 15. I'm joined now once again by Dave Johnson. Let's update one story which broke yesterday. The Jockey Club commissioned a study, and they took a look at Lasix, which has been a bleeder medication, but the Jockey Club survey or study indicates that it can also be a performance enhancer for horses. This should be an ongoing story through the spring. We'll take a look at the 5 horses who will be on Lasix in this race, Dave, and interestingly, one of them is Summer Squall, who is right now the second choice, and there are the 5.
But Al, don't forget that Summer Squall was an outstanding 2-year-old, 5 wins in 5 starts in top competition, and he did it all without the anti-bleeding medication Lasix. But when he did bleed this spring after workout, it was not a trickle. He bled profusely, and I think we have to say he may not be racing, much less here at the Kentucky Derby, without this medication.
Here's another horse on Lasix, Unbridled. What do you think of his chances?
Well, they were very worried about the track condition. He didn't like the deep and sticky going at Keeneland up there, but this track now is dried out. It's labeled good as we speak, and shouldn't be much of a problem.
36 Red, won the Gotham, won the Wood, but here's the big question. Can he win today at 1.25 miles for the 3rd time in the last 4 weeks?
Tough assignment. Some horses thrive on the grueling campaign. And as we heard, this is a very interesting factor, the weight, 126 pounds. He carried it in the Wood. But remember, this horse only 3 months ago was a maiden.
6 months ago, they ran the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. At that time, the race featured the best 2-year-olds of 1989. From that race, just 1 horse has made it here, Pleasant Tap.
And I'm surprised at how many of the people in the media are picking this horse, but I think they're just looking for any kind of long shot. He was good in the recent Lexington where he finished 2nd, and he has an outstanding rider. Kenta Sormo won 598 races last year, a record.
A few months ago, Wayne Lukas had this horse, Video Ranger, but he was claimed for $40,000 from Lukas. As Wayne said, you're looking at that picture in the winner's circle, and I'm not smiling. I wanted to keep this horse.
And if you were looking at the picture in the Santa Anita Derby, you saw this horse gain 2nd place to Mr. Frisky. He made up 5 lengths through the lane. And if there is a speed duel up front and a meltdown in the stretch, Video Ranger could be flying.
All right, Dave, post time is approaching. How do you see the race shaping up and your predictions?
I see it as a 2-horse race, a match race within the big field. Summer Squall and Mr. Frisky are just so much better than the rest of the field. I see them 1-2. And I finally think Pat Day's going to get his Derby with Summer Squall this afternoon. It looks like this horse just wants to win, and that's the kind of a horse I want in the Derby.
I don't. I think that Mr. Frisky answered every question in Puerto Rico, but where he stands on statehood. I'm going to pick him, and I'm putting him in my exacta box. I feel wild today with Video Ranger. They'll break from that gate, and then 2 minutes later, they will cross the finish line for the 116th Kentucky Derby coming up shortly.
We're back in the paddock here at Churchill Downs. This is Neil Howard, who has just put the tack on Summer Squall. You finally wound up favored in the Kentucky Derby, Neil. It was an unbelievably rocky road here, but you two really held up well under the stress.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
How do you feel about this post position? You had mixed emotions the other day.
Well, I did at first, and then everybody said they liked it, so then I started liking it, and then somebody scratched. Now I'm number 13 instead of 14, so I think I would have rather had the 14 on a superstitious level, you know.
Never saw a horseman who wasn't. He looked wonderfully relaxed and composed when he came in the paddock.
Yeah, he's pretty well been like that all the time. You know, he's a real professional, you know. My assistants are more nervous than he is.
How's Neil Howard? Is he relaxed?
Yeah, I'm all right.
First time in the Derby, home track for Neil Howard and Summer Squall. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, Neil Howard, a man of few words, but he really listens to everybody and learns quickly. Let's go down again now to Jack Whitaker.
Well, you've heard of Derby fever, and it's at its zenith right now, right after Riders Up in this paddock at this moment, because you see, nobody's a loser yet. And reality has been pushed way beyond those twin towers, and it won't come back until they clang that starting gate shut. Right now, as they make the parade right through the tunnel and onto the track, newcomers and oldcomers, veterans, owners, and trainers are caught up in this Derby dance, and their eyes are flashing and their hearts are racing. This is a moment that verges on the giddy. But right now, there are no losers. They're all immortal. Come on and watch, but don't touch. It might be contagious.
Okay, Jack, and they're on their way now. Get out the hankies, because pretty soon it'll be that song, and why it does to us what we do is difficult to figure out. Has it really been a year since you and I sat and watched the horses? Different horses, of course, but the sight so much the same. And then listen to the song. You'll notice as the crowd sings that many people don't know a lot of the words, but everybody knows "Weep No More, My Lady." The chorus will swell when it gets to that. By the way, the track is still listed as good. We had one of our agents go down and check the track a while ago. He says it's faster on the rail than it is in the middle. They're coming on the track for the Kentucky Derby.
Derby. Please join the University of Louisville Marching Band, conducted by Mr. David Whiteley, and the singing of My Old Kentucky Home.
And now a look at the field. Number 1, Pendleton Ridge, the maiden. Not a young girl, but a horse that's never won a race. Don't bet against Lafitte Pincay Jr., the rider, if it's a stretch battle. 1A, his stablemate, Burnt Hills, the speed horse in the race. He should lead going to the first turn. His rider, Valenzuela, looking for 2 derbies in a row. Number 2, the first of the Lukas entries, Real Cash, owned by Bill Young, Overbrook Farm, ridden by Alex Solis. But the big horse in that entry is 2B, Land Rush, the Maryland bred from Ross Valley Farm, ridden by Angel Cordero Jr. He could be a factor. 14-1 the last time we looked. 2X Power Lunch rounding out that stable. Calumet Farm, they've won more derbies than anybody else, 8 of them, but this horse is not favored today. Randy Romero, the rider. Number 3 is Killer Diller, a long shot here, owned by Barry Schwartz of the Calvin Klein organization, and named after Barry Diller of the 20th Century Fox. Number 4 is Video Ranger, second in the Santa Anita Derby, ridden by James Bruin, a son of Pleasant Colony, who won this race, one of 2 Pleasant Colonies in the race this afternoon. Number 5, here he is, Mr. Frisky, the horse that everybody's been talking about. Pride of Puerto Rico from the Solimar stud, that means sun and sea. It's really Jose and Marta Fernandez, and of course Gary Stevens is the rider. Number 6, Fighting Fantasy, in this race today because of a little girl 6 years old who was operated on for a brain tumor this week. The granddaughter of the owner, Ray Cottrell Sr., they could have possibly won the Illinois Derby. She wanted the horse to run here. Number 7, Unbridled, could win this race today, ridden by the talented Craig Perrette, owned by 92-year-old Frances Genter. She's owned horses for more than half a century. This is her first horse in the Derby. Number 8, Pleasant Tap. As we said, a lot of sentiment for this horse, but not much betting, as he's still at 41, ridden by Kent DeZormo. That's a name all of you may not be familiar with, but you'll be hearing it for many years to come. Number 9, the Silver-Tailed Silver Ending, the $15 horse, being ridden for the first time by Chris McCarron, who won here on Ali Sheba. If I said 15,000, it's 1,500. Hard to realize that a horse went for that. Number 10, 36 Red, down from New York, a big favorite up there, and one of the favorites here, ridden by Mike Smith. Number 11, here is the joint favorite, Summer Squall from the Dogwood Stable, Cott Campbell and the 28 owners. Neil Howard, the trainer, and Pat Day looking, remember, for that first Derby win on his 8th attempt. Number 12, Dr. Bobby A., down from New Jersey, trained by Steve DeMoro, ridden by Nick Santagata. Country Day was number 13, but he was scratched. So that is the field for the 116th Kentucky Derby. And Charles E. Canty has joined us here now. You don't need the rain gear anymore, but you haven't had time to take it off. How do you see the race being run?
Well, Jim, I think there are half a dozen horses who are going to be on or close to the pace. Surely Fighting Fantasy and Real Cash will be showing the way with Burnt Hills and 36 Red, Mr. Frisky, and Summer Squall closest to them. I think the pace will be very honest, and I think when they turn for home, the battle we've expected between Summer Squall and Mr. Frisky will materialize, and I've been in the paddock looking at both of them so closely, trying to separate them. I haven't been able to do it all week. They both look good in the paddock. I guess I'm just going to have to toss a coin and say Mr. Frisky this time. If there's an upset, if there's a Buster Douglas in the long grass, it'll be one of the come-from-behind horses. I like Pleasant Tap, Unbridled, Land Rush. There's a really good, solid second flight there. But whoever is going to win this race had better be there at the head of the stretch, because in the last 29 years, the most ground a Derby winner has ever made up from the 8th pole home is 1 length.
True enough. I'll take Mr. Frisky with either Unbridled or Silver Ending second. The winner's circle, waiting for the winner. Who will it be? These are the jockeys in today's race who have visited that special winner's circle before. And experience counts in the Kentucky Derby. Only 3 riders have won more derbies than Angel Cordero Jr. He rides Land Rush today.
Post time just a couple of minutes away. There's been remarkably little change in the odds from the time the windows opened here earlier today. In fact, they opened yesterday. The Frankel entry of Pendleton Ridge and Burnt Hills at 30-1. The Lukas entry 13-1. Killer Dillard 60-1, as is Video Ranger. Mr. Frisky on the last click just dropped from 2-1, where he'd been held for about 2.5 hours, to 9-5. Fighting Fantasy at least 99-1. You saw Unbridled, Pleasant Tap, and Silver Ending. 36 Red has gone from 4-1 to 5-1 in the last hour. Summer Squall clearly the second choice at 2-1. Now there's also inter-track wagering, as you can see on the left. In Kentucky, Summer Squall is 2-1. Mr. Frisky is 9-5. At Hollywood Park in California right now, Mr. Frisky is 4-5. You could get 7-2 on Summer Squall in Inglewood. In New York, Mr. Frisky is favored there, and that's surprising because this is kind of an east-west confrontation, but Summer Squall is the second choice at Aqueduct as well. In Puerto Rico, forget it. Mr. Frisky is 1-5, and Summer Squall is 9-2 at El Comandante. Again, bonus points in the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. 5 points to the winner of this race, 3 for second, 1 for third. Most points at the end of the Triple Crown, $1 million. If you sweep it and you win all 3, the Preakness and the Belmont to follow, $5 million. Let's go to Jim McKay.
All right, Al, thank you. Word with Carl Nosker, the trainer of Unbridled. Carl, condition of the track, listed as good, seems to be getting faster. What do you think?
The track looks excellent right now. It looks like it's got plenty of moisture in it, and yet it's not sloppy or anything. It looks like a great track. No excuses here for anybody.
Has Mrs. Getter had anything to say?
Miss Getter is very excited. She's right here in the box right beside me, I think you can see.
Yep.
And you will like it. She is very excited.
Give her our best, Carl. It's time now. The horses are being loaded. Let's go to the man who will call the Kentucky Derby again this year, Dave Johnson. Dave?
And there goes Mr. Frisky into the gate. His handler is Jim Holly, one of the assistant starters here. And the number 2 horse, part of the D. Wayne Lukas entry, that's Real Cash. Hard to believe it was exactly this date, May the 5th, 1973, that Secretariat started his quest of the Triple Crown. The Hunch players were having a ball with the Summer Squall earlier this afternoon. With the thunderbolts and the storm clouds and the storm warnings and the stormy weather, those were the names that they tried to get Summer Squall named before they finally accepted that one. Let's watch them load. 36 red.
Got it, Moon. This horse gonna be all right.
And here comes Summer Squall with his handler, Roger Nagel. Pat Day has been second in the Kentucky Derby the last 2 years. And now to Power Lunch on the outside.
Come on.
Take that outside.
All in line, and they're off. A squeeze plays there, and I believe that Unbridled caught the worst of it as they moved out of the starting gate. And now passing the stands for the first time, Real Cash has the early lead, and on the outside, Fighting Fantasy into the second spot. Mr. Frisky is right there between horses. 36 red is fourth, and on the outside, here comes Burnt Hills. The Summer Squall is 7th at this point, passing under the finish line the first time. Fighting Fantasy on the outside takes command. Along the inside, it's Real Cash into second, and Mr. Frisky is right there with the leaders. 3 of them across the track. Then 36 red is fourth along the inside. Burnt Hills on the outside is 5th by 5. Summer Squall is 6th at this point. Dr. Bobby A is 7th. Then Land Rush with Cordero on the outside, 8th. Pendleton Ridge is 9th. Silver Ending is 10th and gaining on the outside. Unbridled is 11th. Pleasant Tap trapped in on the rail, racing 12th. 3.5 lengths farther back, Killer Diller is next. Then 5 to Video Ranger, and the trailer is Power Lunch, 15th and last, and about 25 lengths off the leaders. And the leaders right now, along the inside, that's Real Cash holding on to the lead by a head. Mr. Frisky with Gary Stevens on the outside challenging. Those 2 match strides as they round the far turn. On the inside, it's Real Cash. On the outside, it's Mr. Frisky, 2.5 back. That's 36 red, and Summer Squall is charging up on the outside. Summer Squall with a rush into third. Unbridled is fourth, and moving quickly on the extreme outside. Pleasant Tap behind a wall of horses is fifth as the field turns for home. Summer Squall toward the inside. Unbridled out in the middle of the racetrack. Charges up to challenge. Those 2 are heads apart. Unbridled on the outside, and Summer Squall at the rail. And down the stretch they come. Unbridled takes command. Summer Squall is second. It's 6 lengths farther back to Pleasant Tap. Along the inside, Mr. Frisky is out of it, and through the stretch and to the wire. The 116th run for the Roses goes to Unbridled with jockey Craig Perrette, winning by 4 lengths. Summer Squall was second, and then 7 lengths farther back, it was Pleasant Tap.
Oh, Lieutenant, I love you. Oh, they got it.
Carl, this is Jim McKay. Congratulations, Mrs. Getter. Congratulations. After half a century, you have won the Kentucky Derby unofficially, but your horse finished first. And now they're on their way. I have never seen anyone walk to a winner's circle. You run there as if you think it's going to go away. And suppose it's the winner's circle for the Kentucky Derby. It will be empty no more very soon. This circle that is used for just 1 race a year. A marvelous story. 92-year-old Frances Getter from the Minneapolis area. She had said earlier this week, to tell you the truth, she said, I think I see the race better here at home on television, but I guess I better go. It's the one chance. She had never even had a horse in the race before. Craig Perrette, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me the story of the race briefly.
He'd run a terrific race today, Jack. I let him settle. He started getting me in a position on his own inside the half-mile pole. And when I called on him, he just gave me a big burst.
Okay. We'll be seeing you in the winner's circle, Craig Perrette. A man who has a great sense of values, by the way. Craig doesn't ride as many races as other jockeys do. He's a big family man with children. And you'll see him up at Saratoga sometimes wheeling the baby along in the carriage. Unofficial still, remember. Unbridled, the winner. Second, Summer Squall. And third, Pleasant Tap, that long shot. And number 4, Video Ranger, another long shot, finishing 4th. The time 2:02, considering this only listed as a good track, that's quite good. The record, of course, 1:59.2, has never really been approached, set by Secretariat. Last year's time was 2:05. So here they come, Unbridled by the sire Papiano, bred in Florida by Tartan Farms, and trained by the fellow who first appeared on Wide World of Sports as a bull rider back in the early 60s, Carl Nofsker.
I'm glad to see the cowboy win this one.
Mrs. Genter, by the way, her first husband died a few years ago. She is married again, and her current husband is 93 years old, and we're told plays golf 3 times a week. Now there's the beaten Mr. Frisky. What happened to him, we don't know. You could see, obviously, that he was up there, and then coming into the last turn, he just began to drop back. So the hero of Puerto Rico will have to wait for another day. This is the winner. Much more about that subject when we return. It's still unofficial.
So Unbridled, who was peaking beautifully, who won the Florida Derby with Pat Day aboard, and then went into the Bluegrass Stakes, finishing 3rd there on a track he apparently didn't like. In fact, his trainer thought about scratching him 3 weeks ago in Lexington. Comes back and wins the Derby, as Jim said, considering the track condition, listed as good. A very fine time, 2:02. And the results are now official. Unbridled went off at 10-1, so pays 23.60, 7.80, and 5.80. And the 11 horse, Summer Squall, finishing 2nd, 3.80 and 3.80. And then Pleasant Tap, who was 35-1, finishes 3rd and pays $12. The Exacta, 7 and 11, pays $65.80 as Unbridled wins the 116th running of the Kentucky Derby. And let's go to Charles C. Canty.
Well, it's the cold reality of defeat for the 2 riders of the 2 co-favorites today. Pat Day aboard Summer Squall, who did finish 2nd. Gary Stevens, who was beaten aboard Mr. Frisky. You each had a say in this race, one at the beginning and one at the end. Gary, you were there right at the beginning, 22 and 3, 46 flat. Too much pace?
Possibly too much pace. My colt, he went right to his business, though, and I felt very comfortable going around the first turn. We got a good position right away, and he was doing things the way he likes to do them. Midway down the backside, he became a little uncomfortable, acted like he didn't really enjoy what was going on, and he did pull me to the lead at the 3/8 pole, and I thought we were going to go on about our business. And within about a 16th of a mile, there was a horse breathing down my throat, and I suspected it was Pat, and that's who it was. And shortly after, here come Unbridled. But my horse, he just spit it out about the quarter pole for an unknown reason.
And Pat, you did indeed move up and looked almost a winner, but couldn't sustain Unbridled through the stretch.
Well, I tell you, this I was forced. They kind of bunched up on us going the half-mile pole, and I had to let this colt run on. He run to him very kindly coming off the turn. He done one funny thing as we come off the turn. He just, being there all by himself and the crowd roaring, and he flipped his ears up and come out of the bridle and didn't feel like he ever really went back to running, even after Unbridled went by him. I mean, he come back and run a little bit, but I felt like he galloped out strong. I mean, I just don't feel like he gave me everything that he had the last quarter of a mile. It was a very game performance on his part, but I think the crowd might have distracted him just a little.
All right, well, thank you both. Sorry it wasn't a better finish, and now we'll go to Lynn Swan.
Thank you, Charles. I'm with Neil Howard, the trainer of Summer Squall. Neil, first, the outside post position. How'd your horse break?
Good. He broke good. He always gives 100% in everything he does. He came out good, got a good position. And
after he got the good position, he was laying back on the backside. Did you feel he was still okay?
Yeah, he looked good going down the backside. I didn't have binoculars, but he was about 6-7 lengths off the lead and moved up good. He ran a good race. He got the lead on the turn. I thought he was going to win the thing, and then Carl's horse ran a hell of a race. I can't wait to congratulate him. He ran fantastic.
He came in second. Always a pointer important in the Chrysler Triple Crown. Will you be there at the Preakness?
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, we'll have to, see what happens and talk to Mr. Campbell. But I'm sure the way he ran today, you know, I would think so, you know.
It's a big race. We're sorry you didn't win it. We look forward to seeing you later on. Thank you very much for talking with us. Al?
All right, thank you, Lynn. And, well, our luck continues in determining which horses we will isolate on. We had 4 of them today, and sure enough, one of them was Unbridled. So we're going to take a look at his performance from start to finish. And I know in your call of the race, you mentioned that you thought he got the worst of it at the break here. Let's take a look. The number 7 horse.
Craig Perret, who rode a magnificent race. And as you see, there is a traffic jam, but he sort of had to take back and maybe got some good position toward the inside. And what was happening in front of him, Al, was quick early fractions. 22 and 3 for the first quarter and 46 for the half on the track labeled good. Mr. Frisky and the rest of them just collapsed at the quarter pole, and as we'll watch, Unbridled made it home.
As they came by the stands the first time, it was Fighting Fantasy who didn't figure. He went off at 99-1, who was out in front. It figured that Real Cash would help set the pace. And at this point, it did indeed look as if Mr. Frisky was exactly where he wanted to be.
Exactly where he wanted to be. And there goes Gary Stevens. He's going to move, but watch the move that Craig Perret makes with Unbridled. He's along Pleasant Tap at this point. Pleasant Tap with DeSormo will get the show spot. Those two racing as a team, and they're going to pass Pendleton Ridge here.
As they begin to head down the backstretch, and so much is determined by the pace and by position, and Unbridled, after a shaky beginning, was able to remain clear most of the way, found his spot, and there he was heading down the backstretch and ready to make his move.
He's behind Silver Ending at that point, and Silver Ending is sort of leading the way up the backstretch. And now Craig goes to the inside as Burnt Hills drops out of it.
Yeah, that was a key move right there.
Sure was.
Not quite as dramatic as Shoemaker's move on Ferdinand in 1986, but he had to pick the right time to go to the inside and then come back outside.
And now you see Craig is not whipping this horse. He has Pat Day in his eyesight. Now the two of them hook up at the quarter pole. Day goes to a left-handed whip, switches, sticks. On the outside, it's Unbridled. And watch him come home.
And the isolated replay, I tell you, it proved one thing to me. That's a much better ride than I thought he'd gotten with a naked eye. That was some job turned in by Craig Perret to guide Unbridled home first in the Kentucky Derby.
Perret was 3rd last year with Awe-Inspiring, 2nd with Bet Twice in '87, and a magnificent performance as he brings Unbridled.
And there was the replay of Carl Oscar, who's doing a little play-by-play for Francis Genter. That's beautiful.
We better get him up as a spotter.
Boy, I'm telling you. And down the stretch they came to finish first in the Kentucky Derby.
He's on the lead, Miss Gilly. He's on the lead. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's a winner. He's a winner, Miss Gilly. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner, Miss Gilly. He's a winner. He's a winner. He won it. We won it. You won the Kentucky Derby. Oh, Miss Gilly, I love you. Oh, we won it.
You couldn't get it to look that way in a movie if you did 50 takes.
He's a winner. He's a winner. You won the Kentucky Derby.
Francis Genter from Minnesota, 92 years old.
Came down in a private plane to watch her Unbridled win and pay $23.60.
$23.60 for the victory, $7.80 and $5.80. Summer Squall, who went off as the second choice, paying $3.80 and $3.80. Pleasant Tap got up for 3rd to pay $12. Video Ranger was 4th, and there's the exacta, the $2 exacta. 7 and 11, the two lucky numbers at $65.80.
And the 10th fastest time in Derby history.
Here is the complete order of finish and lengths behind the winner. Unbridled winning it by 3. Then Pleasant Tap was 9 back. Video Ranger was closing, but still finished 13 behind. Silver Ending was closing and still finished 15 back. Killer Dilla was 6th. Land Rush was 7th. Mr. Frisky faded all the way to 8th. And you begin to wonder if you'll see him in Baltimore. 36 Red was 23 lengths behind. He didn't have it today. Power Lunch finished 10th. Real Cash, who helped set the early fractions, finished 11th. Dr. Bobby A was no factor. Pendleton Ridge, the maiden, was no factor. Burnt Hills 40 back. And Fighting Fantasy, who helped set the early fractions, finished last, 47 lengths behind the winner. Unbridled in Louisville. Back with the presentations after this.
ABC's wide world of sports coverage of the Kentucky Derby continues.
We look down from the Goodyear blimp America at 1,000 feet. The blimp out of Houston, Texas, piloted by Captain Alan Jenkins. And now it's time for the presentation. We're here on the stand with Tom Meeker, the president of Churchill Downs. How you got the sun out, I will never know, but it was remarkable.
The sun came out at the right time. The sun always shines in Kentucky. It's my pleasure to introduce the governor of Kentucky, Wallace Wilkinson.
Jim, I said a moment ago that there may not be any such thing as immortality, but I want to tell you, winning the Kentucky Derby comes close, doesn't it? Especially on a day like today. Look at the enthusiasm out there, and I'm just delighted for them.
And now the trophy.
Now the trophy, yes.
Miss Genter? Miss Genter, could you stand up for a moment? There is the winner.
Oh, there it is. My pleasure to present this to you, and a big Kentucky congratulations. We are delighted you've won.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted too.
Miss Genter, if anyone has paid their dues in this business, it is you. Half a century, you had horses that almost made it, Dr. Carter, Superbity, and others. You've never had one in the race before. You thought earlier this week about staying home and watching on TV. I take it you're glad you came.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, Mrs. Genter is 92 years young.
92? Now don't...
92 years young, and she could have won this race herself today, Jim, if she had run it. I'll tell you that. Congratulations.
I think you're right. Carl Nofsker's way in the back, the trainer. Congratulations to you, Carl. You tried to tell me after your horse finished third in the Bluegrass, you've been trying to tell everybody all week that he was ready.
He was ready, and he proved it today. Thank goodness it's over.
Everything's well in the morning. I take it we're on our way to Baltimore.
I think so.
Okay.
I sure wouldn't change my mind.
Let's get Craig Perret in here. I said he was a family man. He has his wife Jan with him and his two little girls, Jillian and Jennifer. But right now, Craig, maybe we can take another look at this race. You've come close before, and now you've done it.
Today was payday.
Let's have a look now. You do the talking.
Well, right here, as I knew my colt very well, I wasn't concerned with what who was going to do. I was going to settle him, try to find my spots with him, and take one good shot at him. Right here, he's very relaxed for me, and I'm really in good shape. The horses are kind of getting away from him, but he's not getting bounced around. I got the track where I wanted to be, and I just kind of played it by ear from here. Right here, he's on a nice loose rein, and he's good and relaxed, and I knew when I give him a cue, he would do some running for me.
That's just about where he wanted to be.
Exactly. I wasn't concerned if he was 8th, if he was 12. I just wanted to be within 8 or 10 lengths of him, and I knew he'd make a good hard run at it. When we get up to around the half-mile pole, I'm probably in better shape than I wanted to be. The holes started opening. He started creeping to him. By the time I hit the quarter pole, it was just a matter of how far he was going to win. He done got me there the right way.
No concern on the backstretch that Mr. Frisky might run away and steal it.
Well, I wasn't concerned. I wasn't going to get concerned into the race until the last 3/8 of a mile. That's where my horse was going to give me his best. And right here, I'm just kind of cruising along, trying to find the openings. And I found a spot right here. I got in behind Cordero and moved to the inside of him.
That was a nice move there.
It did work out very well for me. Right here, and then he got through, and when he did, I just got him the racetrack, and it was just whether he was good enough. When we get right up here to about the quarter pole, I see Pat starting to cruise to the lead, but I'm going awful easy. Pat had already asked his horse right in here to run, and I was still just wrapped up on mine, so I said, well, I got it.
Thought you had it right here.
Well, when Pat hit his horse left-handed, and he didn't open up on me, I knew I had him. And right here, I just asked my horse to give me it, and he did it.
You can enjoy it again, can't you, while you watch?
Well, without a doubt. Matter of fact, I'd like to look at it 4 or 5 more times with you.
Okay, well, let's bring Carl back in for just a moment. But, Craig, you ride another horse called Housebuster.
They're taking the lead.
As we look again. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
They're taking the lead. They're on Unbridled. He's taking the lead. He's taking the lead. on the lead, Miss Getty. He's on the lead. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's the winner. 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 He's won it. We won it.
Okay, Miss Getter. I think, as Al said, Hollywood couldn't have put on a better performance than you did just from your heart. You ride a horse called Housebuster, arguably the fastest horse in the country. His owner, Bob Levy, and trainer Jimmy Kroll are at least considering the Preakness. You could have a tough choice.
Well, you know, it puts me in a difficult situation right now, but I like those situations. You know, between now and the Preakness, it's a long time. Things happen with horses. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I'm in a good spot. I got two very good contenders right now, and I win the Derby. That'll be hard to take off of a Derby winner.
I don't think anybody's ever done that. Congratulations again. And we will be returning to Churchill Downs. Again, the winner of the Kentucky Derby is Mrs. Frances Genter's Unbridled. Well, now here is how the points stand in the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Unbridled now with 5 points as the winner. Summer Squall with 3. Pleasant Tap with 1. Should Unbridled win the Preakness and the Belmont, of course, he's guaranteed a total of $5 million. Right now we're with Michael V. Howe, General Manager of the Chrysler Plymouth Division, and we have another presentation here, Mike.
Yes, Jim, we do. As you know, Chrysler Corporation is extremely proud to be associated with the Triple Crown. It gives us an opportunity to be associated with the finest sporting event, I think, in the world. And it's our pleasure today to award to Craig and his family, his wife Jan, his daughter Jillian, and Jennifer, the keys to this red LeBaron convertible that's parked over here, Craig. That was a really nice run, and we're all very proud of you. We hope that we can follow you all the way to the end of the Triple Crown.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to say hello to my grandmother, who is sick in Louisiana right now. And Grandma, that was for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig. As we said, he's a family man all the way. Let's go to Jack Whitaker.
Well, thank you, Jim. This was a Kentucky Derby like there used to be, filled with romance and drama. First of all, the horse, who got off to a shaky start, was very cool down the backstretch, came to the top of the lane and put away the favorite with great authority. The rider who inherited this horse from Pat Day, who made a masterful ride, the trainer who got him here in great condition, but most of all, this is a story about the owner. Mrs. Genter has been in horse racing since 1939. Some of you might remember that was the year they made Gone with the Wind and we started World War II. 51 years and wins her first Kentucky Derby today. How sweet. And I think there must be a lesson for all of us somewhere in that. Jim?
All right, Jack. There's nothing, if anything, to add to that. The Kentucky Derby has been won by Unbridled. The sun still shines bright on the old Kentucky home. It's 2 weeks till Baltimore, to Pimlico, and the Preakness. What a spring we're going to have here on ABC Sports. See you then.
ABC's Wide World of Sports presentation of the Kentucky Derby has been brought to you by Chrysler, where luxury is engineered to give you the advantage, and by AT&T, the right choice. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.
Promotional. Puerto Rico, an island in the sun, takes great pride in sons of the island. Sons like the baseball great Roberto Clemente, whose namesake, the horse Roberto, won the Epsom Derby. And now comes another. His name is Mr. Frisky. This house is already a landmark of the island, the house of Jose Fernandez. Fernandez, the engineer, who now leads a big construction firm, whose wife Marta asked him for an anniversary present. Said, let me select a horse. So they flew to the mainland with their daughters to a horse sale in Florida. They own other horses, but this would be Marta's anniversary present, a special horse. She chose a 2-year-old by a little-known sire, born and raised at a little-known farm in Ocala, but Marta told her husband that this was the one she liked.
I tell him, Look, he looks like one of those paintings that we have seen in Kentucky. And he told me, don't worry, we'll get him. And we bought him.
So for $15,000, they bought the son of Marseilles, to whom you could breed last year for $2,000 and get a free van ride for your mare in the bargain. In fact, if your mare was a good one, the whole mating might be free. But then Mr. Frisky began to run in Puerto Rico. He won, and won again and again. Mr. Frisky was a winner. Puerto Rico had a hero. Take him to the mainland, people said. Take him to the great trainer, Las Barrera. They asked Las Barrera if he wasn't sure. But then he saw Mr. Frisky run. And it took Las back to that day 14 years ago when he trained another horse from Puerto Rico, Bold Forbes, to victory in the Kentucky Derby, a victory that caused celebrations on the island.
The only word I can say, I'm very happy. I hope all my family see this. And God bless America, and Cuba and Puerto Rico and every country in the world.
His last day of glory in Kentucky was in 1978, when his colt Affirmed won the Derby and went on to take the Triple Crown. No one has achieved that since. Las, born in Cuba in another time, has long had a dream of laying a blanket of roses on his mother's grave there. Mr. Frisky reawakened that dream, so he prepared him for the road to Churchill Downs.
For any horse with 13 race straight, doesn't matter if we win in Cacamonga. He's a runner.
Mr. Frisky fooled those who scoffed at the island horse. He won the San Vicente and then the...
Well, she doesn't lay in behind him, but she's shown a lot of speed away from her a couple of times.
Get your ice-cold mid julep here!
The grandstand at Churchill Downs is just a structure of wood, steel, and concrete. And the twin spires, same thing. Sure they are. And Secretariat was just a horse. The Churchill stand, as solid and comforting as the cover of an old history book, has actually become again today America's annual reminder that dreams can come true, that some things still never change, that beauty and courage and drama can still be important, at least for a day. Is money a subject here? Of course. The big purse for the winner, the tens of millions of dollars going through the mutual windows. But we're here because of the dreams and the drama. We're here because of the human stories in the one and only Run for the Roses. Today, ABC's Wide World of Sports presents the 116th running of the Kentucky Derby, the first leg of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Hello, I'm Jim McKay, welcoming you on behalf of ABC Sports for the 16th time to our exclusive coverage of the Kentucky Derby. Now, let me tell you, this has been a terrible day weather-wise here. Leaden skies, misty rain, cold and wind, temperature 48 degrees, but no more than 15 seconds ago, the sun began to come out and the crowd cheered. So maybe after all, this will not be the coldest of all Kentucky Derbies. Now, the scene, of course, is familiar. We have the great crowd, the twin spires, soon the playing of My Old Kentucky Home, the parade to the post, and the race itself. We have 15 horses, one of them, Mr. Frisky, undefeated in 16 starts. Another one, Pendleton Ridge, has never won a race of any kind. So the dreams and the hard facts will collide head-on pretty soon when the gates spring open in 58 minutes. The Derby, of course, is the first leg of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Now, here's how that works. If any horse wins the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, he is guaranteed a total of $5 million. If not, this point system comes into effect. Victory in any one of the three races counts 5 points. A second is worth 3 points, and a third, 1 point. The horse with the highest total and who has run in all three races will receive a $1 million bonus. Now, let's have a look at the favorites for the 116th running of the Kentucky Derby. Summer Squall, right here, beaten only once in his career, winner of $750,000, carrying the hopes of his 28 owners. And a look now at the unbeaten Mr. Frisky, the pride of Port
Bill laureates as fans, but we know William Faulkner was a friend of horses and the Kentucky Derby. He once wrote that when they play My Old Kentucky Home, we're about to see the 1:30 minutes after the 4 o'clock of all possible 4 o'clocks, on the one Saturday afternoon of all possible Saturday afternoons. Well, old Pappy knew about the essence of this moment we've arrived at presently. You see, even people who think that horse racing might gauge a little bit lower than bungee cord jumping feel the pull of this Kentucky Derby, because the anticipation is the whole story practically. It's intense and very compelling, and it should be enjoyed rather than explained. So savor this moment. The day is gaining force now. This one moment of all possible moments on this one afternoon of all possible Saturday afternoons. It is now 4:39 p.m. on the first Saturday in May, and we're all going to the races.
You bet we are, Jack, and they've been coming to the races all week here. Prince Albert of Monaco has been on the scene. Stan Musial, that swing still looks pretty good, doesn't it? He's been here, and Wayne Gretzky, co-owner of Pendleton Ridge. Derby Week is a movable festival in Louisville. Fireworks, balloons, paddle wheel steamers. Thousands of volunteer workers make the Kentucky Derby Festival a rousing. Back again at Churchill Downs prior to the running of the Kentucky Derby. There is a story here today that involves an island, a wedding anniversary, and a trainer who many thought was on the verge of retirement. Now, Laz Barrera is the trainer's name, a great trainer, a fine person, twice a Kentucky Derby winner. But last year, his spirit was broken by an accusation without foundation and later withdrawn that he had drugged a horse. He was a sad and sick and disillusioned man. However, this horse, the horse you'll see, has changed all that. He goes by the catchy name of Mr. Frisky, and there he is today, ready for the Kentucky Derby, carrying the pride of Puerto Rico with him. Thousands of fans have come out here from the island today, and they'll follow their hero to the Triple Crown, they hope. But back home, we're going to have a look at the scene right now, I believe, at the El Comandante racetrack, where Mr. Frisky, there they are, started his career. They know the story, but I'll tell you now. Admiral and Mrs. Jean Markey, confined to their home by age, had hoped to enjoy the winner's circle by television. But when their Alydar lost to Affirmed, they had to settle for a consoling squeeze. Steve Cawthon won the prize at age 18. How easy life's achievements must have seemed to the kid that day. Bill Shoemaker visited the circle at age 54 and used the moment to say hello to his 7-year-old daughter, Amanda. Woody Stevens was brought from the hospital to watch in the director's room. When Swale won, Woody was cured and made it to the winner's circle. And when Bold Forbes won the Derby, all Puerto Rico rejoiced for the colt who started his career there. Will the island jump again tonight? Well, many say yes, that Bold Forbes trainer Laz Barrera will do it again, that the Cuban-born veteran will honor his Latin heritage with another Puerto Rican star, with an undefeated colt named Mr. Frisky. Others favor Summer Squall, beaten just once, battle-tested in sunshine and rain and long-stretch drives. It'll be Puerto Rico versus the mainland as the two do battle. But will neither win? And will victory bring another horse, another owner, another trainer, another jockey to that special place, that magic spot that symbolizes honor and glory just this one day each year? The winner's circle for the greatest race of all, the Kentucky Derby. To bring you the constant variety of sport.
His back right on its feet is Jim Ryan, pound for home.
Greg LeMond seems like he is about to take the lead in Stage 5 of the Tour de France.
The thrill of victory.
And down the stretch they come. Here's the finish of the Preakness. Sunday Silence, an easy goer. Photo finish. Noses apart.
Three-time champion, Jill Trenery.
What a feeling.
And the agony of defeat.
What a terrible fall!
The human drama of athletic competition. The United States amateurs, the college kids, are the best. In our 30th year, this is ABC's Wide World of Sports. Rico, purchased for only $15,000, now worth millions. And for more on that subject, let's go now to my ABC Sports colleague, Al Michaels. Al?
Jim, let's start with a promising note. The track today has been listed as muddy, but it's a quick-drying surface here at Churchill Downs. And just a moment ago, I took a look back over my shoulder, and the track is now listed as good. So, In today's race, as we take a look at this field, there are 15 horses, and I think you can break them down into 3 tiers. You have the 2 superstars, Mr. Frisky and Summer Squall, and right now they are neck and neck to see who will be the favorite. Each has been held at about 2-1 for the last couple of hours. Then there are 8 horses, such as Land Rush and Unbridled and 36 Red, and you'd have to say they are legitimate contenders. We'll take a look at them in detail later on. The other 5, well, they'd have to be called pretenders, but owners and trainers have dreams, and if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. You might as well dream about the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at some race particulars. The purse today is $750,000, about $600,000 to the winner. The distance, 1.25 miles. None of the horses has gone that far. The track condition, as I say, just listed as good. Temperature 48 degrees. Each of the horses carries 126 pounds. Only 36 Red has ever carried 126 to this point. Now, these are the saddle cloth numbers, the program numbers. They have nothing to do with the post positions. We'll have those for you later. Bobby Frankel, the longtime king of the claimers trainer, the former New Yorker, now out of California, comes to the Derby for the first time. His entry, number 1, Pendleton Ridge and Burn Hills, 30-1. Wayne Lukas has 3 horses in the race, Real Cash, Land Rush, and Power Lunch. Bet 1, get all 3 at 14-1. Killer Diller is 50-1. Video Ranger's second in the Santa Anita Derby to Mr. Frisky is 60-1. Mr. Frisky, by a few $1,000s, is the favorite at 2-1. A few thousand more than has been bet on Summer Squall to this point. Fighting Fantasy at least 99-1. That's as high as the tote board goes. Unbridled is 10-1. Pleasant Tap might be the overlay at the moment at 40-1. With 36 Red, you saw him following Silver Ending. 36 Red is 9-2. Summer Squall is number 11 at 2-1. Second choice at the moment. Dr. Bobby A is 90-1. He'll break from the inside, and Country Day was scratched yesterday. That's a look at the 15-horse field, and now from the roof to the terrace, we go to Jack Whitaker.
Well, Al, I don't know how many sports have no